Good afternoon, everyone. This chat has mentioned hybrid HPC with a focus on the storage aspects. This talk was originally given by Jacob Zarlat, our Senior Solution Architect at eResearch last year. So he is one of our storage gurus at Xenon. I wouldn't say that I'm a storage guru by any long shot, but I'll do my best and we'll see how we go. And I'll even try to field questions at the end and not look silly. So Xenon is a HPC specialist. We're based in Melbourne in Australia. You might have picked up that I have a Kiwi accent. I'm originally from Gisborne. I've been in Australia for 12 years and I've been with Xenon for 18 months. Some of the people that we've worked with over the past few years, there some fairly large names, some national research centres in Australia. Pawsey and Syro are the two big ones that I'm aware of. I would think that possibly there would be two big names in the research community in New Zealand as well. So our storage partners, the reason that there's so many up here is that Xenon, we try to be vendor agnostic, and that's with regards to everything, whether it's networking, storage or compute. These storage partners here that we've got quite long-term relationships with them. And some of you may have been in the talk yesterday where I've been looking at these things from a Kubernetes angle and how we can manage that there. But today we're talking more around the hybrid compute. And forgive me for reading from the screen here a little bit as opposed to directing to you directly, but the biggest point here that I was told to get across here is that to get the research data where it is needed and when it is needed. So it's not about saying, I have data on-prem now, perhaps I can burst out to cloud, I'll wait maybe 2 or 3 days for it to get there and then I'll run my job. So clearly not a good scenario to be in. So the vendors that were on the previous slide there have been attacking this problem. There are various patterns to solving that problem. And those different approaches, or patterns, are essentially what I'm going to introduce here. So one of the more basic ones, and reducing the complexity, is to simply stream the data. So that could be from a publicly accessible source. Your hyperscalers with their cloud provisions there and the file systems that they have on there. So the issues here are around getting your write back, maintaining those hybrid workflows going seamlessly. The use cases there, the one that I'm aware of around sequential workflows, particularly around when they become iterative for AI type purposes. Two vendor examples there. So the Versity S3 gateway, which acts like a bridge to file-based storage. And AI Store, which probably even people in the AI community don't generally know about, but that's a gateway to backend object stores with on-node caching. So anyone who's dealing with LLMs or machine learning where there's a lot of iterative reuse of the data, that can help speed things up without having to wait for it to fetch it from the source again. The next pattern here is having a central repository similar to what you would have with version controls like Git and Subversion, where there's a check-in, check-out process. What it does do is it makes have a central repository of data, it acts as your source of truth. The issues there is very similar to even version control with code, and that is that you have having to manage conflicts should they occur, managing the check-in, check-outs, having the extra disk space for the caches. So some of the use cases here where the sites aren't working concurrently. Again, going from my knowledge here, through finance, they do follow the sun around the world as the trading goes, and so you're not necessarily going to have merge conflicts of people checking in, checking out. So you may have research examples where you're doing shared research on a global pattern and moving data, or not moving data, but accessing it as the sun travels around the world. One of the examples there is Quantum FlexSync, which is actually a part of Quantum StorNext and Quantum Myriad. So snap replication. This is where you're essentially taking a snapshot, replicating the snapshot, and making that available as a secondary copy. So the reconciliation is probably the largest issue there. You've also got the time of delay to getting the snap replications across sites. So anyone who's wanting some form of immediate consistency with the data wouldn't be using this pattern. One of the more well-known examples would be Wicker with their snap replication feature that they have here. One that seems to be catching a little bit more popularity, I would say, is around having a decentralized global namespace. So having your remotes on cloud, you're on-prem, you're still going in and you're looking at it as a single file system regardless of where that data actually resides. It provides you with that same view across it, so you're getting a consistent view of the data. The writes, though, don't tend to be very performant. So you're getting the reads and you're having the data available where you need it. Simplified workflows, someone's accessing it the same way in both places, a different person will be accessing it the same way as well. And two examples of that are Vast and Hammerspace. Now, I can't really drop into more on that one because I don't, unfortunately, have that lower level knowledge. Now, that's the end there. I'll do my best to field any questions if they come up. Happy to go back if somebody wants me to try and explain something further and see if I can dig into my memory there and see what I can pull out.
Any questions for Adrian? We've got a bit of time, so nothing? Like,
Oh, I thought I got away with it then.
not quite.
Thanks, Adrian. I was wondering, so about this global namespace, so does that reach across different solutions? So, for example, could I bundle up my, say, a vast file system with AWS S3 or something like that, or Microsoft Azure, for instance?
The thing there is if you're running Vast in AWS as opposed to running something like AWS S3. Now, I don't know whether or not there's a back-end sort of, it acts as a gateway once it's there and you can attach the S3 through the Vast. But my knowledge, as it extends currently, is that you need Vast running in the cloud and Vast on-prem.
I mean, if there would be such interconnectivity, that sounds very powerful to me, because if you want to do cloud bursting, you could just basically mirror the file system into the cloud and it automatically fetches what it needs. Yeah. I mean, at least ideally, it's probably more complicated than that, but it would sound quite great.
Yeah, I agree. And as you're aware of our chats around Kubernetes and trying to do hybrid approaches, I'd certainly see that as, like this here, when explaining these patterns, that one there makes the most sense to me. But again, I'm not a researcher. Some of the other patterns may have made more sense. But that certainly would be something that I'd be looking for. Yeah. So one of the other ones, if I pop back quickly based on that, is if you don't have it at Vast in the cloud, you could potentially be using some of these gateway devices, or not gateway devices, but the gateway solutions. So basically you go through and it's a single interface and it can branch out to the different cloud providers. When you bring it through, it will get cached locally, so that it minimizing egress costs, minimizing API calls, but you do have the latency involved with it and fetching the data the first time. So it's not quite solving that issue directly, but it is another option.
I think for a lot of applications, it's, I mean, some might struggle with the latency, but for a lot of it is simply the mechanics of actually getting the data there, where you would have to
definitely
explicitly copy data over, right? And if that was automatic, that would be great, I think.
Yeah, there is another one that I am aware of called Satira through Hitachi, but that one there is probably not known around the research community. It's not something that would be, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here, but it's not something that would probably be recommending for those types of, for that specific scenario anyway. It's probably more for someone who wants geo-replication as opposed to moving it into the cloud for a burstable type scenario. But that is another option that could be looked at. I hope that's...
Yes.